all night and took nothing, but at your word I will let down the nets. And what's interesting is actually the more accurate translation, instead of master, it would be teacher. But in Hebrew, or the Aramaic of the day, it actually had another connotation. And I always think of my father or my grandpa. Whenever my dad would go to get gas, he would say, "Hey, Chief, can you fill her up?" Or, hey, guy. That's kind of what Peter's saying here. That's more of the parlance, like, "All right, Chief, we'll go out and we'll see what happens." I mean, this is, once again, the things that we tend to miss, you know. So as you see, and of course, you have verse, Peter is clearly being sarcastic with Jesus here. Peter calls Jesus, the Greek is epistates, which can mean teacher, but can also be translated as chief or boss. It's like, all right, chief, right there, boss. Let's see what's going to happen.
He doesn't expect anything.
No.
However.
Would you? No. And this also plays on, going back to Paul in 1 Corinthians, the preaching of the cross is foolishness. This is just playing on that theme. Walking the way of faith is foolish to the eyes of the world, to pragmatism, to logic. You know, this all plays into that. Okay, so of course he does that, and then in verses 6 and 7 it says, "And when they had done this, they enclosed a large number of fish, and their nets were breaking. And then they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats, so that they began to sink." And so once again, this is a super big deal, as we'll see. I'll read the paragraph. And once again, keep in mind, if you look up scene 4, of course, this is the center of the story. This is where things are going to change for Peter. Peter is not too familiar with this Jesus. He's referring to him right now as teacher, as boss, being sarcastic. He knows he's listening to his words, but still, it's like, we're on my turf. We're in the sea. I'm a fisherman. Okay? And this is where things change. Okay? The great catch of fish is the climax central point of the story. And what's very interesting are the fine points that demonstrate the authenticity that this is indeed a Middle Eastern account. And then you notice, Peter does not call to the other guys in the boat. Rather, he signals to them. But what does it say in the NIV? Does it say signal, or he gets the attention? Or?
No, so they signal their partners.
Signal. Okay, the reason why? Well, if you're a fisherman and you've just got a great catch of fish, and it's the morning, and everyone's in cleaning their nets, are you going to yell out, "Hey, check this out"? You know? No. And so once again, these small little things like Jesus sitting down, and then Luke records, and Peter signals. It's like, get over here. And the reason why, too, is this. Noted is sound carries 7 times faster on the water. And of course, Peter doesn't want anyone to know, because this is the jackpot. This is the jackpot for Peter. The lottery. As I put here, it would be like for us winning the lottery. This is the kind of catch that fishermen like Peter would be dreaming of. This is the kind of thing. This is it. This is it. This is what they dream of. This is what they're always looking for, and he's got it. And he doesn't want anyone to know. So they go out. As I put, Peter is most likely thinking, "I have hit the jackpot." And keep in mind too, initially he doesn't know who this Jesus really is. So it must have been perplexing to think, this guy Jesus, who's from Nazareth, he has no fishing experience. How did he know about this? Initially Peter's probably thinking, did a spring in the middle of the lake open up, and somehow Jesus was privy to this knowledge, and so all the fish are down there because they want to be near the oxygenated water? Does does Jesus actually have more fishing knowledge than he's let on? Yeah, how is this so? And the other thing too is Peter's probably thinking, this Jesus is going to make me rich. Take that, prosperity gospel. So, as I put, Jesus, he must have thought Jesus discovered something. Yet, here's the contrast. If Peter had knew what's going on here, or excuse me, if Jesus had known, had known, by now he probably would have been rich. Yet this Jesus who Peter is dealing with is what? He's a rabbi who has no one over his head. He's penniless. He's not rich. And this is why this is the climax here. This is the essential part, because this is where Peter's like, whoa, hold on a second. This guy's not from around here. There's no way he would know about the spring of water if he was only human, or purely human and sinful. There's no way. So something more is going on here. Something miraculous. And this is where Jesus now has suspended his purely human abilities and is using his divine abilities. Christus Victor. So now Jesus is accessing that divine power, if you will, and he's going to do something to convert Peter. And so what we have here is, it says, yeah, Jesus, this penniless rabbi, was wandering around preaching when clearly he could be rich in a matter of weeks with his pal Peter. And then I quoted what Bailey has to say. He says, Peter found himself face to face with a person who challenged his priorities on the deepest level. Peter, up until this point, his life was surrounded by fishing. This was how he was going to get rich. And then here comes this itinerant preacher who does just that for him. But it doesn't really mean a thing to this Jesus. Jesus is not concerned about making money. After he does this miracle, he's going to move on and go elsewhere. Why? Because he has perfect faith. He knows that his Father will always provide. So he needs not take up these riches. He can just move on. And so in this moment, Peter's seeing this happening, and it completely calls into question the way of life that he has had up until now. What he has known is fishing. What he has known has been, I want to fish and find that jackpot. And then I can provide for my family and golden for the rest of our lives. And this Jesus, who he's dealing with, totally throws a wrench in it. And how does he throw a wrench into it? He makes Peter do things that were completely illogical. And amazing things happen.
I just think it's interesting, too, if you thought about modern day, someone who's worried about money or career or anything like that, and Jesus came up and had an awkward, interaction with him, whatever, and basically he gives him everything that he wants. And in my mind, I have this picture of this kind of bum-looking like guy just walking down the street, walking away from this amazing thing that he's just given. It's like, well, I don't need that. Or is that what you wanted? There it is, but I've got other stuff to do. And so I think it must have been very interesting to meet Jesus and be like, you can provide everything I've ever wanted, and yet you walk away from it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the other thing is, just to use this as an example, you have the first 3 points, if you will. Then you have this big climax, and then you have 5, 6, and 7. And you almost have old Peter, or you do have old Peter, and then this miracle happens, and you have new Peter. This miracle completely changes Peter's outlook. It's almost old Adam. He encounters Jesus Christ. New Adam. You have baptism, or this idea, old life in Egypt, go through the Red Sea, get into the wilderness, new life. The Jordan River. One side, you're in Moab, I believe, the plains of Moab. You walk across the Jordan River and you're in the Promised Land. Foreshadowing baptism. In baptism, we die to Christ, and we're given new life, new thinking, a new mind. We're clothed with Christ, this new approach. This is exactly what happens here. Already in Jesus' ministry, this high Christology. This is what's going on. Old Adam, transfer for new Adam. And we'll see this with the language that Peter uses. So going back to this way of understanding of 1, 2, 3, Peter's not necessarily getting who this Jesus is. He knows he's a rabbi. He probably respects him. He respects him enough where he's willing to go out, to the middle of the sea, in the middle of the day. Yet, this experience is going to change his whole relationship with Jesus, this miracle. And once again, also remember, too, that in all this, Peter is a passive receiver, or a helpless receiver, to play on sermon 2 weeks ago. He's just, Jesus is doing everything. But he beckons Peter for help. But Jesus is totally using Peter. He's the one that's active. Peter's just passive. Okay, I'll do this. Okay, I'll do this. Okay? So, let's look at 8 and 9. Look at 8 and 9. But when Simon Peter saw it,